Total number So today we are going to discuss about the respiratory system. The respiratory system, if you consider in the evolution process, where the multicellular organisms are not exist. During that period, the unicellular organisms are there, and they may be present in the when they take food from the environment, they will take food directly from the environment by the process of division. But when this multicellular organism system gets evolved, now there becomes a difficulty because we could consider the organ, therefore the organ get increases. As a result, what happens? It will become very difficult to transport the O2 to the each and every cells. So as a result, there is obviously evolution of the respiratory system. If you consider to discuss about the competency of the respiratory system. Competencies describe the functional anatomy of the respiratory system. In that, the specific learning object we are going to discuss about the functional anatomy of the respiratory system. Then discuss the different layers of the respiratory membrane. In the today's lecture, we are going to discuss about these two specific learning objectives. Then we will discuss what is actually respiration. By saying that the respiration is nothing but is a brief in which we are going to take the atmospheric air into the lungs, and from there it will transport this O2 to the tissue, and from the tissue there is a utilization of this O2 for the oxidation of the foodstuffs, and there will occur again formation of the CO2. This CO2 will be carried again to the lungs, and from the lungs this CO2 will be get expelled into the environment. As a result, what happens? In a simple form, we can prepare a simple definition. Nothing. Respiration is the movement of oxygen from the outside environment to the cells which are located in the tissue. That is the environment to the cell within the tissue, and removal of this carbon dioxide in the opposite direction. So we have prepared this simple definition of the respiration. So then consider the different kingdoms. For example, this is a tracheal tube. Is present in the insect. This is a form of the through this tracheal tube there occurs the respiration in the insects. In case of the animals which are living in the water, the aquatic animals. In these animals, there is a presence of the gills in case of the fishes. Through these gills are present, and when there occurs the parting of this gill, then there will occur the exchange of the O2 which is present in the water, and there will occur the whatever the deoxygenated blood is present in the gills will be get oxygenated. Then in case of the kingdom where the air breathing is advanced or the air breathing is evolved, in these animals there is a presence of the lungs, and through these lungs these animals can take the or they offers the exchange of the gases. Then the stages of the respiration. As you know that this oxygen will be taken through the nose, then it will reaches up to the lungs, then it will travels through the blood and reaches up to the tissue. That part where we have divided into different stages. The first stage is a ventilation. In this ventilation, atmospheric air is collected and it will reach up to the lung where the oxygenation of the deoxygenated blood will occurs, means there occurs the exchange of the gases. That part included under the ventilation. Now this ventilation, then the next part is a transport stage. Here this hemoglobin, this O2 will bind to the hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin which is present in the RBC is transported from the lung to the tissue. Then this transport, that is the transport of the O2 from lung to tissue, is called as a transport. Then next is the exchange stage. Here there will occur the exchange of the gases from the blood to the tissue. That exchange of the gases is nothing but is called as a exchange stage. Now then there is a tissue stage. Here the O2, which is some enzymes are present in the mitochondria. These mitochondria uses these enzymes for and O2 for the oxidation of the foodstuffs. As a result, there will occur the development of the formation of the CO2. This CO2 again there is a process of the exchange of the gases. And now after that, this CO2 will be collected and it will bind to the hemoglobin and it will transport it again to the lungs. So these stages of the respiration are divided under the four stages: that is ventilation, transport stage, exchange stage, and the tissue stage. If you compare where is the respiratory system, what are the components of the respiratory system? As you know that this respiration starts from the external nares, that is a part of the nasal cavity, part of the nasal cavity which opens to the atmosphere, that is a external ear or also the anterior ears, and which will open into this pharynx. After that, there is a presence of the structure called as the larynx. We discuss in details after regarding this. Then there is a presence of this trachea again which and again divided into two tubes, that is called as each tube is called as a bronchus. Now this bronchus enters into the lung, and this lung is located in the thoracic cage. This lung is covered by the simple covering that is called as a pleura that we discuss after this. And there are the different muscles which will take part into this respiration and the inspiration and the expiration. In detail, we will discuss afterwards. For understanding of what are the components of the respiratory physiology or the respiration, we have taken this diagram for the understanding purpose. And in the lung, there is a presence of this bronchiole, and bronchiole forms the enters into the alveolar sacs where the alveoli are present, where the actual exchange of the gases will occur. Next, that is this respiratory tract. Now, this lung, if we discuss about this respiratory tract, the part start from the external nares will end up to the terminal bronchiole up to the bronchioles, and it again divide and redivide, and finally it forms the alveoli. Now what happens? So it is this respiratory system is divided into the main the respiratory tract and the lung itself. The respiratory tract again divided into the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. Now first we will discuss about the upper respiratory tract. Now this respiratory tract will start from the nose. It will reaches up to the glottis, and this glottis is the end of the upper respiratory tract. So whatever the structures are present from the nose to the glottis, we will discuss. As you know, as you see that nose, if you know that this is the passage of the air where the atmospheric air will be inhaled for the respiration purpose, and these nose are lined by the epithelial cells which has a cilia-like structure, and It also contains the olfactory epithelium, which is mainly responsible for the smell. Then when the air enters into the nose, then there will occur the trapping of the different elements. Some particles which has a size more than the 10 micrometer, those will trap in this nasal. Then what is next function? There is a supply of there is a presence of the mucus. There is a vascular system is there which is highly developed in this nose. It also the cells which are present, the epithelial cells, they also secrete the mucus. And due to that, there is a continued blood supply is there, higher blood supply is there. So this structure is kept in a somewhat the temperature which is a high. Okay, so as the temperature is high and there is a presence of the mucus, when the air comes into the this structure, what will happen? The temperature of this air, whatever the temperature of the atmospheric air, it is lowered. Sorry, it increases. That is a warm air. It will occurs the warming of the air. As there is a presence of the mucus, it will humidify the air. So this is the most important. As you know that if there is a problem concerning the secretion of this mucus and there is a dry nose is there, what happens? Continue irritation of the mucus, continue irritation occurs in the nose. So it will become very difficult, it becomes very painful if there is absence of the, or there is a decrease in the blood supply, or there is a decrease in the secretion of the mucus. So it is most important, that is humidification of the air is most important. If such humidification of the air is not occur, again the structures which are located in the next part of the respiratory tract, those will get affected. So this is the importance of the humidification of the air, or there should be more volume of the air. Along with the paranasal sinuses, we will discuss about what are the paranasal sinuses. And there is a presence of the along with the nose, along with the paranasal sinuses, they will mainly working as a resonating system, which is helpful for the formation of the speech. So in this way, it is involved in the speech. Then, as you know that it contains the nasal secretions. It contains the interpharynx and the immunoglobulins. Please consider this immunoglobulin should be written as a capital I and small g. Should be written in this way, capital I and small g, not in this form. Okay. As this nasal secretion contains the different types of the immunoglobulins and interpharynx, so they are involved in the phagocytosis process, or they will destroy the foreign particles. As you've seen that as the COVID is going on, whatever the vaccines are there, some vaccines are there present in the form, they will form the immunoglobulins, and those immunoglobulins are secreted in these forms, immunoglobulins, in the nose. So whatever when the virus comes into the nose, then there will these will be considered the antigens, and these antibodies, that is the immunoglobulins, will be there. They will destroy in such a way they will destroy the viruses as well as the bacteria. So when there is a preparation of the vaccine it is whatever the antibodies will be formed, those antibodies will come through the nasal secretions in the nose. Then paranasal sinuses. For that purpose, directly we discuss the diagram. We get a better understanding of these sinuses. These are the frontal sinuses, sphenoid sinuses, and the ethmoid sinuses of the ear cells are there. And these are the maxillary sinuses. Then, as these are sinuses, nothing but the empty space is there. Is it clear? And what happens in some cases, its main function is lighten the weight of the head. As the empty space is there, no any presence of the bone or any structure is there, ultimately it loses the weight of the head. Then humidifying and heating of the inhaled air, it is involved in the again humidification and increase the resonance of the speech. It is again involved in the process of the speech. Acting as a vital structures and involved in the to protect against the if there are trauma is there to the head, especially the facial part. It is again it will help to protect this brain from such type of the trauma. In such a way, these are important. Now the sinusitis, this term you have well understand or you have heard. Then what is the sinusitis? The sinusitis means nothing but the inflammation is there. But the causes of the inflammation is inflammation of the edema and the edema of the nasal mucus. So there will be the inflammation in the sinuses and there will be the pain. So this is called as a sinusitis. Now we discuss actually the physiologic anatomy of this respiratory system. Here I got this diagram for the so as to show you the upper respiratory system and the lower respiratory system. Aim of this diagram is only to show you should know the upper respiratory system and lower respiratory system. Now, as you have seen that we will take the ear to the nose, that is the external ears or the anterior ears. Then there is the presence of the nasal cavity. These are nothing but the actually extension of the bony structure in the nasal cavity or the nasal passage. And there is a presence of this nasal cavity. Now there is an internal ears, means there is a nose which will open into the pharynx, that is called as the internal ears. This pharynx is located behind the mouth. Then this pharynx, if you consider the lower part of the pharynx, then this lower part of the pharynx is nothing but it is a passage, common passage for the air entry as well as the food entry. Now it is a very difficult to take the air and it is very difficult to stop the air or stop the entry of the food particle into the trachea. If you check this structure, as you observe that this trachea is located to the front side and this esophagus is located behind the trachea. What happens actually if you see the any traffic is there? What happens? What problems will be there if there is a crossing of the two roads? Then there will be chances for the accident. So it is avoided with the help of a structure that is called as a epiglottis. It is avoided by the epiglottis, and it is a very advanced or very important mechanism. When there is an entry of this, what is the actually part of this ear? The part of the ear, reach up to the pharynx. Now ear has to cross this part and enters into the trachea. And concerned with the food enters into the pharynx. Again, it has to cross the part of the ear, and it will enter into this esophagus. Just time to focus to this diagram, the part of the Consider the second case. In this, then occurs the glottis is closed, but it is due to the contraction of the adductor muscles. It is due to the contraction of the adductor muscles. This is for your understanding purpose. Is it clear? If you want to show with the help of the diagram, just you have to draw the line diagram. Line diagram is sufficient to show the what is the role of this adductor muscles and what is the role of this adductor muscle in case of the opening and closure of the glottis. Have you understood about what is this glottis? What is actually vocal folds? These are the vocal folds. Now, what happens in some cases? Suppose there is a problem concerning the contraction of these abdominal muscles. What will happen? Is there a proper opening of this glottis? No. During the inspiration, there will occur the vibrations in these vocal folds. There occurs the vibrations in the vocal folds. As a result, there is called as a strike. It is called as a strike. These are nothing but the vibrations. Then, if there is a problem concerned with the glottis, problem concerned with the abductor muscles. There is a problem concerned with the abductor muscles. Abductor muscles are mainly concerned with the closure of the glottis. Then what will happen? Main role is to prevent the entry of the food particles or the water into the air or into the trachea. If the if the food or the water enters into the trachea, condition is called as a pneumonia. Is it clear? What happens actually? If there is no proper closure of this glottis, when there is a food intake, then some food will enter into the trachea and it will cause the pneumonia. As it is due to the during inspiration, so it is called as a respiration pneumonia. Is it clear? You understood about this? So up to this part, we have discussed about the upper respiratory tract. Now we are going to start about the lower respiratory tract. As you have seen that this lower respiratory tract start from the trachea up to the terminal bronchiole, up to the alveoli. Is it clear? This lower respiratory tract start from the trachea up to the alveoli. Is it clear? Then this is the actually larynx we have discussed. Then this is a trachea. Trachea get divided into bronchi, and there occurs again the dividation and redividation of this bronchi. There will occur the formation of the terminal bronchi. This terminal bronchi will again divide, and it will form the respiratory bronchi. Respiratory bronchi will again divide, and it will form the alveolar bronchi. And finally, this alveolar bronchi will form the alveolar. Is it clear? We will discuss one by one. First, this is the components of the lower respiratory tracts. First is the trachea, then branching airway, and we will discuss one by one. This trachea is called as a windpipe. This trachea is called as a windpipe. Divides to form the primary bronchi, and again divides to form the secondary bronchi. This primary bronchi is also called as a principal bronchi. That we will discuss in detail later. Now the components of the lower respiratory tract again divided into the conducting zone and the respiratory. Conducting zone is nothing but it carries the air, and respiratory zone where actually the exchange of the gases will occur. Here this is the trachea. Trachea is divided into two bronchi, left primary bronchi and right primary. If you again come to this primary bronchi, the function is same. Function is same. Number mucosal cells are there, ciliated epithelial cells are there. All the structures here passes to the before reaching the respiratory zone. That is up to the respiratory bronchi. Warmth and humidification of the inspired air will occur. Mucus secreted, which will trap the foreign bodies of the trap the particles, and now from this part there will occur the beating of the cilia towards the pharynx. There occurs the beating of the cilia towards the pharynx. If any particle is present in the inspired air, that will be trapped into the mucosa, into the mucus secretion. That mucus secretion, with the help of the ciliary movements of the epithelial cell, will be propelled towards the pharynx. In the pharynx, it may go into the abdomen, into the GIT, or it may be removed by the speech. Is it clear? So, in such a way, you will work. Just I want to show this diagram. So, what is actually function of this cartilages which are present around the trachea in the form of the C shape? Why they are present in the form of the C shape? Because if you want to, if you take any pipe, plastic pipe, and if you find any tie the thread around that plastic. So when there is a water, then flow of the water, we have tied the thread around that. So it will not allow to increase the diameter of that pipe. Is it clear? And if C-shape structure, if a clip is there, if you tie that clip to the pipe, what will happen? It will inflate, it will increase the diameter. So C-shape structure is there so as to increase the diameter, but this C-shape structure again restricts the increase in the diameter also. Is it clear? So the increase in the diameter is there, but this increase in the diameter is restricted with the help of this C-shape. Understood the importance of this C-shape? But as a result, when there is a branching and rebranching of this trachea part will occurs, or the bronchial parts will occurs, the number of those C-shape cartilages get decreases. Now, this function will be achieved by as the number of the cartilage decreases, number of the smooth muscles in this respiratory this bronchioles get increases. Understood? Here the number of the C-shape cartilage decreases, number of content of the smooth muscles in the bronchiole get increases. Is it clear? Now, if you observe this is called as a trachea is there, trachea divide into the bronchioles, again there is the dividation of the bronchiole is there, and the dividation and redividation of this trachea is called as a tracheobronchial tree. If you observe this structure here, it appears as a, if you observe this structure, we can see that we can observe there is a presence of a tree-like structure. Dividation and redividation of the trachea, it forms a tree-like structure. So it is called as a tracheobronchial tree. Is it clear? We can observe here there is a presence of the C-shape cartilage is there. The number of here the cartilage get disappeared. Now there is only presence of the cartilage material is there, not in the proper form. Then what is the function of this? Actually, when as we are saying that there is increase in the smooth muscle. If the smooth muscle, if such structure is there and there is attachment of this smooth muscle to this cartilage structure. On one tube, suppose 2 to 4 structures, such irregular cartilage structures are there. What will happen? Then this smooth muscle has attachment to this cartilage structure. When the stretching of this bronchiole occurs, then this attachment of this smooth muscle to the cartilage, it will regulate the stretching of or it will prohibit the increase in the diameter of this bronchiole. Understood? Then, as a result, we observe this bronchiole, there is an absence of the cartilage, and there is an increase in the number of the smooth muscles in the bronchiole. Now, this is a right and left bronchi. This is a right bronchi. This is a left bronchi. After, when there is a trachea get divided into the 2 bronchi. Each singular is a bronchus. Now, these bronchus are called as the principal bronchus. Now, this principal bronchus get divided into 2 parts. Those are called as the levar bronchus. trachea is covered. Now what happens is dividation and redividation. It is labeled by a scientist called as a Weibel, and this structure is called as a Weibel model. This structure is called as a Weibel model. First, keep in mind they have label means if the one structure is there, trachea is there, no branching is there, so you have label as a generation. They have label this branching. They have label as a generation. This branching they have label as a generation. So the trachea will be labeled as a zero generation. As the trachea get divided into two parts, that is the principal bronchus. So the principal bronchus they have labeled as a first generation. Have understood? So now we discuss about this generation. This is a tracheobronchial tree by the Weibel model. This is a right and left bronchi. Now the right principal bronchi, the bronchi is called as the principal bronchi. Each bronchi is divided and form the labor bronchus. Labor bronchus will be the second generation. Then labor bronchus get divided into again and it forms the segmental bronchi. Now this segmental bronchi divides 16 times. It divided into 16 times and then it forms the terminal bronchi. So the terminal bronchi is a generation of a 16 bronchi. I understood 16th generation. After that, this terminal bronchi, afterwards, if you observe this diagram, when the whatever the next bronchi is going to form from up to the means that from first generation up to the 16th generation, there is no development of the alveoli at the bronchiole. They just take part into the transport of the air only, no gases exchange. So it is called as a conducting zone. So we can say that from zero generation up to the 16th generation is a conducting zone. Is it clear? Is a conducting zone. Actually, conducting zone start from the nose, but in concern with the generation, from zero generation up to the 16th generation, there is a conducting zone. Is it clear? Now, afterwards, whatever the bronchi get formed, those bronchi have the alveoli. There is a formation of the alveoli to the bronchi. You can see that there is a small alveoli there adherent to this bronchi. Now it is called as a respiratory. Now this respiratory bronchiole again divide. This is actually 17th generation. So the 17th generation up to the 19th generation, these are the respiratory bronchi. From the 17th generation up to the 19th generation, these are the respiratory bronchi. Now from the 20 up to the 22nd, 20 up to 22nd, these are called as the alveolar duct. And at the 23rd generation, there is a presence of the alveolar. So from 17 to up to the 23 is actually respiratory. Concerning with the generation is actually respiratory. Now we understand with the help of the L1 diagram, it will be better understanding. First, they have divided name of the division, name of the generation, and structure of the division. Is it clear? So first we are going to say about the zone. That first is a conducting zone, second is a respiratory zone. They have seen that this is a trachea get divided and it will form the first is a principal bronchi, second is a lobar bronchi, and third one is a terminal bronchi. Is it clear? So up to this is actually conducting zone. From trachea up to from the first generation up to the 16th generation, there is a only conducting zone. They have compared this diagram here. This is a terminal bronchi. This is a principal bronchi. And what happens if you observe there, this bronchi, whatever the bronchi which starts from the zero generation up to the 10th generation, they possesses the cartilage. They possesses the cartilage. From 11th generation up to the 16th generation, there is the absence of the cartilage. Is it clear? Then again from the 17th generation, there is a presence of this alveoli to the bronchi. Understood? And from there, the respiratory, actually the gaseous exchange will start, where the gaseous exchange will start, ultimately the respiration process has been started. So they will label as a respiratory zone. So the terminal bronchiole, from the terminal bronchiole onwards, that is from the 17th generation up to the 23rd generation, there is a presence of this respiratory. Lot of clinical things are mainly concerned with this part. So you should know in detail from the nose up to the alveoli. Is it clear? Understood about this? We are not concerned with the division, we are not concerned with the surface area. That will discuss afterwards. Is it clear? ये डायग्राम समझ में आ गया? This neural regulation we discuss afterwards. First we complete this part. This respiratory zone, again they have given the similar information. In this trachea is there, primary bronchus is there, we label it as a principal bronchi. And this respiratory number of the respiratory bronchi. This diagram actually terminal bronchi is there. They have given the number of the terminal bronchi is about 60,000 terminal bronchi are there. And if you compare this respiratory zone, this is actually conducting zone, this is actually respiratory zone. This terminal bronchi, now here, they will divide and they will form the respiratory bronchioles. The number of the respiratory bronchiole in both lungs is about 5 lakh. Then this alveolar sacs will form. This number of the alveolar sacs in both lungs in the adult is about 8 billion. This is the number of the alveolar sacs, not the number of alveoli. Don't confuse. Understood? This is actually respiratory membrane. Now we are in the lungs now. Here. So again we will come to the CVS. So as you know that in the heart, 4 chambers are there. Actually 2 chambers mainly work. Right atria, left ventricle. Sorry, right atria, left ventricle, left atria, left. Whatever the deoxygenated blood will be collected first into the right atria, then it enters into the right ventricle. Now, through the pulmonary artery, deoxygenated blood will transported to the lungs. Is it clear? Where the oxygenation of the blood will be there. Oxygenated blood through the pulmonary vein will be carried up to the left atria. From there, the blood will reach into the left ventricle, where the cardiac cycle will be there. It will pump the blood into the aorta. From the blood will transported to the each and every cell. Again, there will be the oxygenation of the blood, oxygenated blood. Whatever the tissues are there, cells are there, will utilize the O2. Whatever the CO2 form gets CO2 bind to the hemoglobin in the RBC, which is present in the blood. Such deoxygenated blood again collected into the right atria. In this way, the circulation is there. And out of that, we are going to discuss only the pulmonary circulation. We will discuss in the next lecture. Before that, we should know about the respiratory method. Because this see structure level that smooth muscles are present, capillaries are present, elastic fibers are there, and the alveolus. This alveoli are it is so large surface area, and it is covered 80% of that surface area, whatever the alveolar surface area is there, 80% is covered by these arteries of the veins. Is it clear? So whatever the surface area, 85% surface area is covered by these veins. So such large vascular structure is there around the alveolus. And the smooth muscles are there here. They again perform the function of the alveolar contraction and the dilation. Increase the size and decrease the size of the alveolus. This is the next. The elastic fibers are there that again supports the alveolus. Actually, this is a blood supply, not the respiratory membrane. But we have labeled this respiratory membrane because where the actually gas exchange will occurs. You can see there the detail how vasculature is there. Can you see? We can't observe the alveoli. Such type of the vasculature is there. Vascular structure is there around the alveolus. You see this structure? If you apply here, then 50% occupied by the veins and 50% occupied by the again arteries. Is it clear? So, जो भी अभी डिस्कस किया है नेक्स्ट लेक्चर से पहले अगर ये पढ़ेंगे तो it will be better understanding. Now in this respiratory physiology, physics is maximum. So you should at least know the anatomical and the physiological parts so as to apply this knowledge to understand about the physics behind this respiratory system. Is it clear? A lot of pressures are there, sizes are there. If you consider the diameter of the alveoli, depending upon the diameter, size of the alveoli, it has a range. Is it clear? Size of the diameter of the alveoli varies in the range. So what happens? Which alveoli located at which place? That again varies. So in the next lecture we will discuss about the remaining part. Before that, you should read whatever we have discussed. It will be better to understand the next time. Is it clear? Practically, Monday और साइज किस होते हैं वेडनेसडे के लिए बाइक वेडनेसडे के लिए बाइक तो मंडे और सैटरडे जो किस होते हैं दो प्रैक्टिकल वीक में किस होते हैं प्रैक्टिकल बाइक आप यहाँ है इसका मतलब ये है सभी को जाने चाहिए
Let me see lungs. But just for a research. So in the lungs first we see introduction, then features, difference between right and left class, first bronchially and bronchopulmonary stations. So, first we see the lungs. Now, the introduction. What are the lungs? The lungs are a pair of respiratory organs which are situated in the thoracic cavity. Major portion of the thoracic cavity is occupied by the lungs. The two lungs, between them, there is a heart which is tightly placed in between the two lungs for the purpose of protection which it rightly deserves. So, the lungs are essential organs. Now, the lungs are porous, spongy, and highly elastic in nature. Now, in the newborn, the color of the lungs, it is rosy pink in color. But in adults, it becomes slightly gray. And further, it becomes mottled black due to deposition of inhaled carbon particles. Now, the weight of the lungs, the right lung, it weighs about 700 grams in adults, which is heavier, 50 to 100 grams heavier than the left lung. Is it clear? Now, the features of lung. The lung, it has apex, has base. Borders, there are three borders. Anterior border, posterior border, and inferior border. Surfaces, there are two surfaces. One is the postal surface and the other is medial surface. Medial surface is again divided into posterior, that is vertebral part, and anterior is the mediastinal part. As these lungs, they are conical in shape. They have apex which is directed upwards. It has base. And there are three borders of it. See, this is the right lung. This is the left lung. Apex is conical and it is directed upwards. Now this apex is that part of the lung which is present above the first rib and first postal cartilage. That is 3 to 4 centimeters above the first postal cartilage or 2.5 centimeters above the medial 1/3 of the clavicle. So this lung is present in the root of neck 3 to 4 centimeters above the first postal cartilage or 2.5 centimeters above the medial end or medial 1/3 of the clavicle. Now, anteriorly and medially, this apex is related to the subclavian artery, which makes a groove which is present anteriorly and medially. Now, this apex of the lung is covered by cervical pleura and suprapleural membrane. As you know, so this apex is covered by cervical pleura and suprapleural membrane. no any other bony protection is present at this site. So this apex is more liable for the stab wounds. Now the base. Base is semi-lunar in shape. So this base is semi-lunar in shape, which is present above the diaphragm here. Now this base of this right lung, it separates the lung from the right lobe of the liver. Similarly, this base of the left lung, it separates the base from the left lobe of the liver as well as fundus of stomach and spleen. So this base, it separates it from left lobe of the liver, fundus of stomach and spleen. Similarly, on right side, it separates it from the right lobe of the liver. Now this concavity is more in case of right lung. So base is more concave in case of this right lung due to the presence of right lobe of the liver. Now it has three borders: anterior border, posterior border and inferior border. Anterior border is short and is sharp as compared to the posterior border. In case of right lung, the anterior border is vertical and is related to the anterior or costo-mediastinal line of reflection of pleura. So, the anterior border in case of right lung, it is vertical and is related to anterior or costo-mediastinal line of reflection of pleura. In case of left lung, it is related again to this costo-mediastinal line of reflection, but this left lung, there is one wide cardiac notch is present. And this tongue-shaped projection is called as lingula. Posterior border, this is rounded and ill-defined. Now this posterior border, it is in relation with the heads, medial part of the heads of the ribs. So it is related to the 7th cervical spine up to the 10th thoracic spine. So the posterior part border is related to the heads of the ribs from 7th cervical to the 10th thoracic spine. Now the inferior border. Now this inferior border is very prominent, which separates this base from this costal and medial surfaces. So this inferior border is the sharpest border which separates the base from this both the surfaces. Now it has two surfaces. First is the costal surface and other is the medial surface. Now this is the costal surface, which is large and convex. Now on the costal surface there are impressions for the ribs and costal cartilages and the elevations for the intercostal spaces. So this costal surface, which is in contact with the costal pleura and the overlying thoracic wall, that is depressions for this ribs and costal cartilages and elevations for the intercostal spaces. Now it has medial surface. Now the medial surface is again divided into mediastinal part and posterior, that is vertebral part. Now the vertebral part is related to the bodies of upper 10 thoracic vertebrae along with its intervertebral discs, the posterior intercostal vessels and greater and lesser splanchnic nerves. So this vertebral part is related to the upper 10 thoracic vertebrae along with its intervertebral discs, the posterior intercostal vessels and greater and lesser splanchnic nerves. Now the medial surface or mediastinal surface, it is related to the where it is related to the root of the lung, again mediastinal septum, and the impressions which are present on both the lungs, they are different in both these lungs. So that visceral relations or impressions I will show you in the afternoon during this section. Okay. So these impressions of they differ on both the sides. Now what are the differences in case of right lung and left lung? So here we see the right lung, here is the left lung. Now the right lung, first it is shorter, wider, that is broader. Left lung, it is long and narrow. Weighs about 700 grams in adults, that is, it is heavier than the left one. The weight of left lung, it is 50 to 100 grams less than right lung. That is, it is lighter. Anterior border is straight. Now, in case of left lung, the anterior border is interrupted and cardiac notch. See, in case of right lung, the base is more concave. Base is less concave. See here, we see the fissures and lobes of the lung. In case of right lung, there are two fissures, that is oblique fissure and horizontal fissure. In case of left lung, there is only one fissure, that is oblique fissure is present, which divide the left lung into two lobes, upper lobe and lower lobe, and due to the presence of oblique and horizontal fissures, that is both these fissures, they divide the right lung into upper, middle and lower lobe. So again, the next difference it is two fissures, that is oblique and horizontal. Only one fissure is there, that is oblique fissure. It has three lobes, upper, middle and lower lobe. It has only two lobes, upper lobe and lower lobe. Now we'll see how these lobes see. This is the oblique fissure of right and this is the oblique fissure of left lung. Now this oblique fissure, it cuts the lung in its whole. It cuts the lung in its whole length except at the hilum. It runs obliquely downwards and forwards. And same here, it cuts the whole lung except at the hilum. Now in case of right lung, the horizontal fissure, it runs horizontally from the anterior border up to the oblique fissure. So it runs at the level of fourth costal cartilage. So this horizontal fissure, it runs horizontally from the anterior border up to the oblique fissure and it runs at the level of fourth costal cartilage, dividing the right lobe into, this is the upper lobe, this is the middle lobe and this is the lower lobe of the right lung. Now this, due to presence of this oblique fissure in case of left lung, the left lung it is divided into only two, that is upper and lower lobes. Now there is a tongue-shaped projection below the cardiac notch, which is called as lingula, which represents the middle lobe of the right lung. So the lingula, it represents the middle lobe of the right lung. Now due to the presence of this oblique fissure, the lower lobes, they lie more posteriorly and upper and middle lobe, they lie more anteriorly. Similarly, here in case of left lung, due to presence of this oblique fissure, this lower lobe lies more posteriorly and the upper lobe lies more anteriorly. So again the next difference you can write over here, that is two fissures, one fissure, three lobes, two lobes. Again lingula is absent and lingula is present. And in case of left lung, this lingula, it represents the middle lobe of the right part. So these are the features. So we have seen this along with apex, base, anterior border, posterior border, inferior border. We have seen again the surfaces, both the surfaces. Again we have seen this fissures and lobes. Now we see the root of lung. definition of root. Root, it is a short, broad pedicle which connects the medial surface of the lung to the mediastinum. So what is it? It is a short, broad pedicle which connects the medial surface of the lung to the mediastinum. Now the arrangement of structures, it is again different in case of both the lungs. Now first we see which are the contents of this root. As it is a short, broad pedicle which connects the medial surface to mediastinal surface, here it consists the structures which either enter or leave the lung at the hilum. So structures either they enter or they leave the hilum of the lung. Now which are the structures present here? First is the principal bronchus. In case of left lung, it is only one. In case of right lung, there are two principal bronchi. The pulmonary artery, this principal bronchus is present posteriorly. Pulmonary artery, one pulmonary artery on both the sides, which is present in the middle part. Then pulmonary veins. There are two pulmonary veins, superior and inferior. They are present in the anterior part of this root. Then pulmonary plexuses. Plexuses of nerves. There are two plexuses again, anterior and posterior pulmonary plexus. Then bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. Again, bronchial vessels. On the right side, there is one bronchial artery, and on the left side, there are two arteries. So, the bronchial vessels, that means again areolar tissue and lymphatics. So, these structures are present in this root of the lung. Now, yesterday we have seen that this root of the lung is surrounded by this parietal pleura, isn't it? And where at this extension, that is fold, is called as pulmonary ligament, where both this pleurae, pulmonary pleura, parietal pleura, they are continuous with each other. So this is the pulmonary ligament. This is the root of right lung, and this is the root of left lung. Here, here is the bronchus. Here is the pulmonary artery in the upper part. Again, there is a bronchus. In case of right lung, there are two principal bronchi. That is, upper one is called as epicardial bronchus, and lower one is called as hyparterial bronchus. There are two pulmonary veins, superior pulmonary vein and inferior pulmonary vein. Now here, this is the arterial pulmonary plexus of nerve, and here this is the posterior pulmonary plexus of nerve. Here there are bronchial vessels, one bronchial artery, one bronchial vein, one bronchial artery in case of right lung, and in case of left there are two bronchial arteries. So this is superior, inferior, posterior, and here is the anterior. Here. So this is the hyperarterial bronchus. This is pulmonary artery. This is epiarterial bronchus. These are the two pulmonary veins, superior and inferior pulmonary veins, and this is the anterior pulmonary plexus, and this is the posterior pulmonary plexus. In case of left lung, there is only one principal bronchus which is present posteriorly. Superior to that, there is one pulmonary artery. Again, there are two pulmonary veins, superior pulmonary vein and inferior pulmonary vein. Here, again, here is the anterior pulmonary plexus of nerves. Here is the posterior pulmonary plexus. This is anterior pulmonary plexus. In case of left lung, there are two pulmonary arteries, two bronchial arteries, two bronchial veins. Two bronchial veins are present on both the sides, but on right side there is one bronchial artery. On the left side there are two arteries. So these are the bronchial vessels. And this is the pulmonary ligament. In case here, this is the superior aspect, this is the inferior aspect. Now here, it is anterior and it is the posterior, like this. See the arrangement, this is the most important part because root of lung usually comes for short note. So you have to make the difference. So which are the differential features present in both the roots? You should know that. So the principal bronchi in case of right lung, there are two principal, that is epiarterial and hyperarterial. In between there is pulmonary artery is there. In case of left lung, there is one principal bronchus above which is there pulmonary artery is situated. There are two pulmonary veins, superior and inferior pulmonary veins, which are present anteriorly in case of both the sides. So superior and inferior pulmonary veins. Now here, this bronchus is related to the bronchial vessels. On the right side, there is one bronchial artery, left side there are two bronchial arteries and two bronchial veins on either side. Here is the anterior pulmonary plexus and here is the posterior pulmonary plexus of nerves, which consists both, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve. And this extension of fold, that is the pulmonary ligament. So this is the root of lung. Now we see the arrangement of structures in the root. How they are arranged. In case of both the lungs, from before backwards, it is similar. How to remember? From before backwards, it is similar. It is that. So, from before backwards, that is vein, that is upper pulmonary vein, then artery, pulmonary artery, and then the principal bronchus. So from before backwards, that is upper pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery, principal bronchus. From before backwards, it is same on both the sides. Now we see the arrangement of structures in the root from above downwards. How to remember? In case of left lung, it can be remembered as A, B, B. A for from above downwards, A, B, B. That is A for pulmonary artery, B for bronchus. So this is the bronchus. And B for lower pulmonary vein. A, B, B. So A for artery, B for bronchus, and B for lower pulmonary vein. So in case of left lung, you should remember like this, A, B, B. In case of right lung, here one more structure will be added, that is B, A, B, B. In case of lung, left it is A, B, B. In case of right, you can remember like that. One more structure is added, that is B, A, B, B. So in case of this right, how you will remember this? Again, B, A, B, B. That is B for